60 consecutive videos. Now, on a day like today, we have to ask ourselves, does doing something over and over give it some inherent value? Does repetition make something excusably mediocre? Does doing something consistently, is it naturally impressive on its own? I think ultimately, what I've come away with is that while I enjoy the format of making a video every day, it is, in its own sense, a sort of curse because it acts as both a strong point of leverage to force me into doing something even when I barely have any time to do it. So I have to get something out that isn't at least utterly, irreprehensibly bad. And it also puts me in a position where, to counter that, where I am more willing to produce something that isn't that good because I have the excuse of doing it every day. It's interesting. I had never intended for this series to extend beyond anything aside from daily updates. My first thought when I started this channel was, well, what I'll do is because I want to make content and become a content creator, a YouTuber, a streamer, whatever it is, I thought, well, the first thing you'll tackle is losing weight because I felt so morose looking at myself, and I just thought it was so ridiculous to point a camera at myself, and I felt so uncomfortable. So it was an obvious thing, right? You pick the first thing that you have to get out of the way. You do this series, you kind of learn a little bit about how the process goes. I never expected more than a handful of people to watch anything. And of course, right now, only a handful of people are watching something, but the handful gets a little bit bigger every week. And it is interesting because, on the one hand, I have to deal with a sort of conundrum. Am I attracting people to the channel that will inevitably never watch any of my videos because realistically, I'm not like a sit down and whisper into the microphone and tell you everything's going to be okay about eating food guy. I don't value that in any way, and I don't think it's very useful. And I don't want to draw people in and confuse them into thinking I'm some sort of self-help person. Not that I think I've done much to put that thought in other people's minds. Just the same, I want to be sure that I can talk about the things that I enjoy doing. And I want to be sure that I can talk about things in a way that's funny to me. It's very likely that a lot of people that watch my videos, at some point I'm going to say something that I think is funny that they're going to be deeply disturbed by or not find funny at all, and they'll go. This I have no problem with. It's just called being filtered. But all of these things are things that I didn't think I would have to think about. And I certainly didn't, know what it would be like to think about them. It's one thing to know you may have to have these kinds of thoughts, and it's another to realize the kind of way you respond to things. I'm not a calculated person generally. I allow things to occur and I react. I'm a reactive player. I am very much someone that likes to be spontaneous and creative with things that are said or done to me and my reaction to those things. I don't like to. Um, the harder I think about something, the harder it is for me to create a valid answer. I can over intellectualize things. I can seek perfection and end up freezing in that hope for perfection, which is why, again, the pace of writing is excellent for me because it allows me to temper my incessant perfectionism with the realities of a deadline and the realities of also just the patience of a single human mind. Um, the purpose of everything I'm saying is that I guess this is a sort of a little bit of an episode 60 retrospective. In 60 days, we've done quite a bit. I've lost around, I'm going to gauge, around 15 pounds, somewhere in that vicinity. I don't focus heavily on weight. I've discussed in the past, obviously the goal is to lose 80 pounds. That is focusing on weight, but just the same, it's like I don't hyper obsess over it because I will get out of control. And that's actually a good lead into the next part of what I want to say, which is I wanted to briefly touch down after 60 episodes. I think it's fair enough that I could start to say something about discipline and consistency. 60 episodes isn't a lot, in the grand scheme of things, but doing something 60 times in a row counts for something. And this doesn't happen instantaneously. Even videos like this that are completely off the cuff, which is 99% of them, I still edit them. I still have to rewatch them. I still have to upload them. I still have to put them through DaVinci Resolve. I have to make sure the sound is right. I still have to make sure that there is nothing left in. Like every once in a while, I'll stop and I'll think and then I'll continue talking and I'll cut. Doesn't happen often, but I will do it. I have to make sure I don't leave one of those in. More importantly, I have to render it out, which takes time. I have to listen back to it. When I put it on YouTube, I have to listen again. I have to timestamp it based off that viewing. I have to have a description, a title, a thumbnail. All of those things take tons of time. Whether or not a video is 7 minutes of me laughing at myself or 40 minutes of me talking seriously, the amount of output is still relatively high compared to what it may appear to be. But the output itself is not valuable, which is something that you have to learn as an artist. And most artists, I think, learn this when they're very young. I'm not calling my YouTube art, but the point I'm making is that you learn, ideally, pretty early on, that your creative output doesn't have value in and of itself. Creativity is not valuable unless it provides someone with something beautiful or entertaining or something that makes them feel something. The work is not some sort of thing to be the work itself is not necessarily worth your pride. It just is something you did. It's something you have to accept as a part of the process. It's not something you should pat yourself on the back for, in my opinion. I find that if I pat myself on the back too much, I will get very soft. I'll get very loose. But to jump forward to consistency and discipline, how have I made 60 videos consecutively? How have I managed to do it? It has gotten progressively harder. I will tell you that. I won't lie. It's gotten progressively harder, especially the past few weeks, as I've gotten progressively less time to do them and progressively higher value in what I want to do. And it's just bad timing. It's two things intersecting. It's the amount of time I have going down and the amount of expectations I have going up. And when these things are happening, it's making it so it's even harder for me to be off the cuff, and harder for me to create these videos just in general. But that's not really a lesson learned from consistency or discipline. If we could get into consistency and discipline now. So consistency is a word which refers to the routine and the reliability of your application of that routine. I consistently do this. You could consistently eat a sandwich every day. It's not hard, right? I eat a sandwich every day. That would make you a consistent person. Discipline is something different. Discipline is resisting the impulses that could drag you away from, let's say, consistency or whatever you want your routine to be. Discipline is a much more difficult principle. Everyone is consistent in their own way. You consistently put your pants on a certain way. You consistently leave the house at a certain time. You consistently drive a certain way to work. All of these things are consistency. Discipline is how you measure yourself against your impulses. That's an entirely different thing, and it's something incredibly difficult to get a hang of. And it's incredibly personalized. I've watched many videos and I've read many books on how to be disciplined, how to be consistent, and generally the advice for all of these things are effectively the same. In order to establish discipline, you need to A, not set the bar too high, and B, build that discipline gradually over time with reasonable expectations. That's it. That's it. There's nothing else. There's nothing else. You could read 5 Jocko Willink books. You could read, I can't even think. Thank God I can't think of anyone else off the top of my head. There are a million people that you could read. Who's the guy that praises Stoicism all the time? He's got a really big mouth. I don't know. It doesn't matter. You can read a lot of books on how to do it. And one of them may hold a sentence or a paragraph that triggers the little part of your brain that makes you understand finally what they mean. But effectively, the only thing that you could do is set the bar at a reasonable place and try to meet that bar every day. Now, I don't know if habits form over, what do they say? They say 30 days and you'll get a habit, 60 days and you'll get a habit. I think that realistically, depending on your relationship with yourself, your discipline, and the kind of impulses around you, nothing difficult that can be impeded by impulse is ever going to be set in stone for you forever. It's not. This is a dark thing to learn, and it's a dark thing to accept in your life. You may develop discipline and routine over the course of an entire year and really nail things for an entire year, and then some week it may just all go away. That can actually happen to you. Now, you have to learn from those failures and use those failures as a way of forming a bridge between yourself and the person you want to be, and try to understand why it is that your discipline fell apart, why it is your consistency failed. And generally, I think you'll usually find the answers are pretty obvious. They're usually going to be ones you understand and and then it's a matter of finding a way to
treat yourself kind of as a partner in a dance, in a tango, and know how to maneuver and outmaneuver yourself and your own inclinations. I have a lot of really bad impulses. I have a lot of very bad habits, and I have a lot of really bad tendencies. I can be incredibly self destructive. I can be thoughtless. I could be cruel. There are a lot of things that I can be. But I'm also very aware of myself, but I'm not aware of myself to the point of being crippled. If anything, sometimes I'm not aware enough of myself. If anything, I'm very much so in my own bubble. I'm far away in my own mind. I'm very rarely present. I'm often deep in some weird black hole in the back of my consciousness that I don't know why I'm there, how I got there, and I don't hear anything going on around me. All of these things are things I've learned about myself over time. Why did I establish so much discipline in my life and then destroy it? Why have I established so much consistency and so many good habits and then just suddenly woken up one morning and not done them anymore? These are all things I've had to learn about myself. And as I've experienced those failures, the many failures, ones that truly have broken me down and led me to a point at times where I thought, you are this failure. You will not grow. You will not become consistent. You will not become disciplined. It's happened to me many times. And the only thing that I can say, the only thing that's ever pulled me out of it is the truth is that those failures are the place where you as an individual can grow. You can rise above what would be perhaps maybe an ordinary response or a failure's response, and you can learn from those mistakes. I am very much so always kind of trying to outmaneuver the person in me that wants to self destruct and the person in me that wants to do nothing, the person in me that wants to take the smallest amount of success or comfort or stability and ride it out until I'm dead. I'm always outmaneuvering that guy and I still fail pretty frequently. I managed to make a video every single day because I set the bar pretty low. And I was also pretty much tired of my own failures. I was tired of not doing things I said I would do. I was tired of letting people down, people around me, my loved ones, myself. It just felt like I couldn't possibly not make one of these videos one day. Even if the stakes aren't that high in reality, even if I miss today's video and I post it tomorrow, as I've said before, I don't think people would really mind. And I hate that I keep talking about this in all my videos because I'm sure it's pretty boring and pretty drawl to hear me make the same discussion each time. But at this marker of 60 videos, it seems like one of those things where I just want to give it one last thought over about the idea of making a video every day. And I think a lot of my discipline came strictly from a fear of how I would feel if I failed. And the consistency came from my ability to reach a bar that I think is pretty low. Turn the camera on, try to be at least helpful or at least funny or at least make a point, and then turn the camera off. All the editing and stuff and all that is, of course, the worst part, right? Let me tell you right now, many times I've turned this camera off and I've gone, fuck. I've gone, I fucking hate this. Like 10 times I've done that, and I'm not really a type of person that speaks that way, but it happens to me. I have like little tiny baby crash outs sometimes because of these videos. It's ridiculous. But it's part of me adjusting to the frustration of doing something that sometimes I don't want to do. And I can be a lazy, slovenly, cowardly person. I just absolutely can be. You have to set yourself up for victory as best you can. You have to be aware of the ways that you will try to destroy yourself. And you have to be aware of the fact that when you're destroying yourself, you are also destroying the people around you. And in a larger, not to get annoying or spiritual on you, and I'm not claiming to be spiritual in any particular way, but I believe that as a human being, you have a duty to yourself and to the universe around you to uphold your end of the bargain of mortality. Now, this is merely a philosophical trapping that I adhere to. You may counter it with some sort of misanthropic or nihilistic approach to existence and say that it's a flaw or a mistake or one that you didn't ask for, to which I would counter, then you're more than welcome to see your way out. And you're welcome to justify your biology as your excuse for sticking around, but then at that point, then now we're just, walking in a circle, aren't we? I see a point, and I think that it is important to adhere yourself to that point. And I think that I enjoy the strenuous sensation that I'm supposed to do something better than myself, higher than myself, be it a beautiful piece of art or simply bringing some degree of happiness or relief to a few people around me. those are the things that I try to, at the very least, hold myself to in life. And I know that when I am not working towards those things, that I am being actively destructive to myself and other people. I've managed to make a video every day, as I've said multiple times now in this video. I've managed to do it because I tried, and I'm going to continue to try. I am always sort of going in and out of being extremely disappointed with myself and what I've done with my life and the choices I've made. And I'm not entirely sure whether or not this degree of sincerity is ever going to pay off for me. If I'm being perfectly honest with you, I'm incredibly open about things on these videos, but in real life, I'm not. People that know me do not know me nearly as well as this camera knows me now. And part of the reason for that is because even I hardly understand what it is I'm saying about myself in any given moment. Anyone knows when they are truly wise to the world that people contain multitudes, and it's one of the great frustrations about existence. That even when you want to hate someone, if you have a high enough intellect, you can recognize that that person is actually probably 3, 4, 5 times as complex as you would like to give them credit for. And you hate the part that they approach you with or the part that hurts you. And I think that's perfectly understandable. And just as an aside, it's one of those things where you can only give people what you want to give them. And that's why, as I've said before in these videos, that sincerity is sort of silly. It's kind of a lie. I'm still only presenting you with the part of me that is available right now. It doesn't constitute who I am. However, when I make declarative statements about myself, it does feel like I'm pigeonholing myself as well, right? Because I'm giving you a dimension of a multidimensional facet which makes up my character and my being. You know, it's a color in a kaleidoscope. It's not very useful in reality. And so when you walk away from sincere videos like this, I end up feeling more foolish than anything, right? Because if anything, I've given you a false impression in the sense that a single angle of an enormous beast is not what the beast is. I think I'm making sense. But you can only take people for what they are, and you can only take yourself for what you are. You know, I always hated, God, I always hate when people say, oh, well, they're nice when you get to know them. Fuck them. I judge someone based off the way they make me feel right away. That's called life. You don't get the benefit of the doubt. I don't like when someone's really shitty or annoying. I'm sure you've had this at work. You know, you meet a new coworker and they get a weird vibe, or you bring it up to someone and they go, "Yeah, but once you get to know him, it's nice." No, I don't need to get to know him. I just did get to know them. What that person gave me at the basis of zero from nothing was not good. So I don't need to know them. That's a perfectly fair way to go through life, and it's kind of how I go through life. I like to think that I give everyone every ounce of my compassion and presence when I meet them for the first time. I like to think that when I approach someone, the most intellectual way to approach them is from a state of extreme openness and awareness. Um, and when I am met with the opposite, I have no problem with that person being just utterly destroyed. That's how I face life, because the trip is short, my friends. The trip is short and it hurts the whole time. So this is the way I've decided to do things. How does this relate to YouTube videos? I don't know. It's weird to be sincere like this. I'm a fucking goofball. I like joking around and being funny. I got a lot of really strong, ridiculous opinions. I'm an angry guy. I'm a silly guy. I don't know. I made 60 of these videos and I feel okay about all of them. Sometimes I think about just deleting the whole thing. It's weird. But I'm happy I've done them so far. I'm happy I've made 60 videos. And I intend on making 60 more. I'm exhausted today, which is why I just sat down and spoke and didn't add a lot of bells and whistles to this 60th, anniversary. I guess I was a little all over the place, but that tends to happen. I hope you enjoyed this one. I hope you managed to get something out of it. I'm sorry it was a little scattered. If you want to do something difficult, set the bar low and touch the bar and do it every day. And it's going to be okay one way or the other. That's the advice. That's the only real advice you'll ever get. Bright lights, flashy colors, slick, clean suited gentlemen explaining the top 10 tips and what time to wake up and how to do things. Some of that might click for you. I'd recommend finding a reason to fall in love with life and using that somehow to leverage your behavior in the direction of achieving the sense and exploration of that love of life. That's what I think you should do. That is the advice I have for anyone, and the only advice I have. I will see you tomorrow. That's enough. I think I might stream tonight, too. Oh, God. Goodbye. Goodbye, goodbye. Day 60. Thanks a lot, guys. Like, comment, and subscribe. Jesus.